The alien warlord Zarnok stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as the blue-green planet filled the view. It looked harmless enough. No large space fleets, no energy shields, just small lights moving across its surface. "This world is weak," he said, his voice deep and cold. "We will take it." His scouts had reported only scattered signs of life. Old buildings, slow-moving vehicles. Nothing that looked like a real army. Zarnok was sure this would be an easy victory. But he was wrong. Far below, on the red soil of Mars. Jack Harlan sat at a dusty table cleaning his old sidearm. He was older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face from years of fighting. Once, he had led Marines through fire and blood. Now, he taught security teams how to survive. He got a message on his screen. Unknown ships near Earth, possible invasion. He read it twice. Then he stood up, grabbed his coat and walked outside. Not far away, Lena Cruz was training new recruits in hand-to-hand combat. She had been a Navy SEAL once, one of the best. Even now, she could still throw, a man 10 feet with one move. Daniel Reyes was in Texas fixing an old truck. He had been an Army Ranger, always ready for a fight. Jack called them both. "Something's coming," he said. "And if we wait for the government, it'll be too late." Within hours, they were in the air. Not in fancy ships or high-tech armor. They used old shuttles patched up by engineers who had fought beside them before. They were not alone. Others joined. Former snipers, medics, pilots, and soldiers who had never really stopped being warriors. Some were hurt. Some were old. But all of them remembered what it meant to fight. When they reached orbit, they saw the alien fleet. It looked powerful, sleek, fast. But Jack didn't flinch. "They don't know what we are," he said. "Yet." 1. Alien ship broke formation. It moved toward a city on Earth, weapons charging. Jack gave the order. They hit hard. Their shuttles came in low, hidden by radar tricks and broken signals. They launched EMP charges, disabling part of the alien ship. Then they boarded it, not to talk but to show the aliens their first lesson. Never underestimate humans. Inside the alien ship, gunfire echoed. The battle was short. Brutal. By the time it ended, the aliens knew two things. Earth was not defenseless, and its veterans did not play fair. Zarnok was angry. His lead ship had gone dark. No signal. No survivors. Just silence. He sent more ships to find out what happened. He expected a fight, but not this. The humans didn't line up for battle like other species did. They didn't wait in open fields, or try to match weapons shot for shot. Instead, they disappeared into the land and came back with fire and death. Captain Maggie Doyle led one team deep into northern Canada. She had been part of Delta Force once, trained in silent war. Now she used that skill to trap the aliens in frozen forests. Her team set bombs under snow-covered roads. They cut power lines and made fake radio signals to confuse enemy scouts. Every move was meant to make the aliens feel lost. Meanwhile, Eddie Ramirez stayed behind enemy lines, hidden in an old radar station. He couldn't see anymore. He had lost his eyesight years ago, but he could still fight. With help from drones and smart machines, he watched the battlefield like a ghost. He told snipers where to shoot. He guided teams through the dark. The aliens started calling him the Blind Eye. They feared him. Jack Harlan and Lena Cruz moved fast across broken cities. They used ruins as cover. They turned burned-out buildings into strong points. They taught new fighters how to use fear as a weapon. Daniel Reyes led ambushes in the mountains. He dropped rocks on alien patrols. He used wires and traps to pull ships from the sky. This wasn't space war. It wasn't clean battles with honor. It was dirty, painful, and endless. The aliens had armor and lasers, but they didn't know how to win against ghosts who never stood still. One by one, their forces were worn down. Ships went missing. Scouts vanished. Bases were attacked at night and left in fire. Zarnok saw reports filled with panic. His soldiers were tired, confused. Some even refused to go outside alone. He looked at maps of Earth, trying to understand how such a small world could bleed his army so fast. His generals begged for permission to call in orbital strikes, to burn the forests, melt the mountains, and flatten the cities. Zarnak refused. He wanted to understand first. He wanted to know what kind of planet raised warriors who fought like this. And then he got a message. Another base had fallen. Not in a big battle, not in daylight. In the dark, while guards slept, no survivors. Zarnak finally felt something he had never felt before. Not anger, not hate. Fear. Earth was not a prize. It was a trap. And the hunters were waiting. The aliens made a bold move. They sent a massive dropship straight into the heart of New Denver, once a great city, now mostly ruins and broken glass. It landed with a loud crash, sending dust and smoke into the sky. Thick metal legs dug into the ground. Weapons turned on. Soldiers in dark armor stepped out. This was not just an attack. It was a message. We are here to stay. But the humans had other plans. Jack Harlan got the news while cleaning his boots in a bunker under Texas. He didn't say much. Just stood up, grabbed his gear, and called his team. Lena Cruz was training new fighters in Colorado when she heard. She left her lesson mid-sentence and jumped into a waiting truck. Daniel Reyes was already on the move, leading a convoy of old tanks and homemade armored cars toward the city. Within hours, a strange army came together. Some were young, some were old, some had served, some had been in prison. But all of them had one thing in common. They knew how to fight. They didn't wait for orders. They didn't ask for help. They went to war. New Denver became a battlefield. Buildings crumbled. Fires burned. Alien drones flew low, scanning for targets. They found too many. Cruz led a team through broken tunnels beneath the city. They planted bombs under enemy supply lines. She moved fast, silent, deadly. Reyes took the high ground. From the top of a ruined hotel, he coordinated sniper teams and drone attacks. Every shot counted. Every explosion hurt. Harlan led the final push. He wore no fancy armor, no glowing visor, just an old vest, a rifle, and a thermite axe slung over his back. His team moved like shadows. They hit hard and disappeared. They ambushed patrols, cut off escape routes, turned the city into a maze of death. The aliens tried to hold their ground. They built walls, set up turrets, called for backup, but it wasn't enough. In less than a day, half of their force was gone, and then came the final blow. Harlan and a small group reached the alien command center. They breached the outer door with explosives and stormed inside. What followed was short and brutal. When the fighting ended, the aliens were in full retreat. Some ran, some begged. Most never made it out. Footage of the battle spread fast. Across Earth, across space. Soldiers on other worlds watched and whispered. Earth's warriors had done it again, not with big ships or perfect tech, but with guts, skill, and the will to never back down. Zarnak saw the reports and clenched his fists. He had underestimated these humans before. Now, he was paying the price, and worse. He knew this was only the beginning. After the Battle of New Denver, Earth changed. Not just its cities or its defenses, but its people. The world no longer waited for governments to act. Schools turned into training centers. Old army bases opened again. Retired soldiers became teachers. Everywhere, young people learned how to fight, not just with weapons, but with minds. Among them was Tina Morales. She was only 17, but sharp and fast. She had grown up hearing stories about Jack Harlan and Lena Cruz. Now she trained under Maggie Doyle herself. Doyle was hard on her, harder than anyone else. "You don't lead by shouting," Doyle told her one day. "You lead by knowing what your people need before they ask." Tina listened. She studied maps, tactics, history. She learned how the veterans had beaten the aliens, not with better tech, but with smarter war. Back on his ship, Zarnak watched reports from Earth with growing worry. His forces had lost battles before, yes, but never like this. Never against a world that kept making more fighters. He sent another fleet, bigger, faster, better armed. But when they arrived, they found something new. Not just older warriors, not just broken cities, but students, teenagers who moved like soldiers, kids who set traps like experts, boys and girls who knew how to kill. In Texas, Reyes led a group of young recruits through an ambush drill. They hit a fake alien convoy, took cover, and vanished before counterfire could find them. In Colorado, crews ran a live fire course. Every student had to clear a building blind, under pressure, with no help. And in New York, Harlan gave speeches to new cadets. "We don't teach you to win easy fights," he said. "We teach you to win when it's impossible." During one battle, Tina got her chance. An alien unit broke through defenses near Chicago. Most of the regular army was tied up elsewhere. Tina and her squad were still in training, but they moved. Anyway, they used what they had: old tanks, stolen drones, and knowledge passed down by the veterans. They ambushed the aliens at a highway overpass, cut off their escape, called in air support from a nearby base. Within hours, the enemy force was destroyed. When Harlan heard, he smiled. "Good," he said. "Now they're not just students anymore." Zarnock saw footage of the attack and felt his stomach tighten. Earth wasn't just fighting back. It was teaching others how to fight like them, and that made them dangerous. More dangerous than any army he had ever faced. Zarnock had lost too much. Too many ships. Too many soldiers. He was no fool. He knew the war was slipping from his grasp, so he made a decision. He would come to Earth himself, not from orbit, not with weapons, but on the ground. He landed in Texas, near what used to be a small town. Now it was surrounded by old bunkers, hidden tunnels and traps built by hands that had fought wars before he was born. His elite guards followed, weapons ready. They expected an attack. None came. Instead, Jack, Harlan stood alone at the top of a broken courthouse, flanked by 24 older men and women. Some wore old uniforms, some wore plain clothes. All of them had medals pinned to their chests, badges from battles long forgotten by time. Zarnock stepped forward, his armor gleaming under the sun. "This ends today," he said. Harlan didn't move. "You've been trying to end it for months," he said. "It's just now starting to sink in." Zarnock raised a hand, his fleet above prepared to fire. Then the ground shook. From beneath the dirt and stone, dozens of hidden troops rose. They had waited, watched, learned. Maggie Doyle led the charge. From the north, her team cutting power to alien drones before they could send warnings. Eddie Ramirez, unseen but always present, guided sniper fire through the battlefield. Every shot hit where it hurt most. Daniel Reyes hit the enemy supply lines. Trucks flipped, fuel burned, escape routes vanished, and in the middle of it all, Tina Morales moved like a ghost. She had studied the aliens, learned their weak spots. Now she led a small unit into one of their command posts. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't ask for backup. They took it apart from the inside. Zarnock tried to retreat. His ship was damaged. His comms were down. Half his guards were dead or missing. He barely made it out. Back in orbit, he looked down at the planet below. He saw smoke rising. He saw fire burning. He saw a world that refused to fall. For the first time in his life, Zarnock felt something deeper than fear. He felt shame. Earth was not weak. Its people were not easy prey. They were warriors, old ones, young ones, all of them dangerous. As his ship limped away, he gave one final order. "We are done here." The humans had won. Not with the best weapons, not with numbers, but with heart, with grit, and with fighters who never stopped being ready. After Zarnock left, the galaxy listened. Other alien leaders read reports, watched battle footage, studied how a small planet had beaten back a powerful fleet with no help from space, no fancy weapons, and only old ships held together by Lao Bing, veterans. Some called Earth cursed. Others called it dangerous, but all agreed on one thing. It was not to be touched. Back on Earth, the fighting stopped. The cities began to rebuild. The young soldiers returned home. The older ones faded back into quiet lives. But peace did not mean weakness. The aliens tried something new. Not war, but talk. A delegation arrived in Geneva. They came in clean ships wearing soft words like armor. "Let us make peace," they said. "We can trade, share knowledge, build something together." Jack Harlan sat at a long table with other human leaders. Lena Cruz stood behind him. Daniel Reyes leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Harlan looked at the aliens. "You don't get to ask for peace," he said. "Not after what you tried." The aliens smiled. They were used. To negotiations. To deals. "Think of what your people could gain," one said. "Technology, medicine, protection under the Galactic Concord." Harlan didn't smile back. He slid a data chip across the table. "Watch this," he said. The screen lit up. Battle after battle played. Ambushes, traps, attacks in the dark. Humans bleeding aliens dry with nothing but skill and will. When it ended, Harlan spoke again. "This is what happens when you come here thinking we're weak. We don't want your tech. We don't need your help." He stood up. "Leave Earth, alone, or next time you won't get to leave at all." Some aliens stayed behind, not as prisoners, not as spies, as deserters. They chose to live among the humans rather than return in shame. Zarnok never came back. He was stripped of command. His name was erased from records. On Earth, life went on. People remembered the war, taught their children about it. But the real warriors, they didn't stay in the spotlight, they walked away. Not because they were done fighting, but because they knew the best way to keep peace was to always be ready to break it. Years passed. The war became stories. The battles became lessons. The aliens who had fought on Earth never forgot, and they made sure others never came close. Children grew up hearing tales of Jack Harlan, Lena Cruz, and the old warriors who had taught the galaxy a hard lesson. Tina Morales was no longer a student. She was a general, the youngest in history. She led joint missions with other planets that now respected Earth not as a world to trade with, but as one not to cross. Jack Harlan lived quietly on a ranch in Montana. Sometimes, young soldiers came to visit. He didn't give speeches. Just coffee, quiet talks, and advice from a man who had seen it all. Lena Cruz wrote a book. It was called How We Bled Them Dry. It became required reading in every military school on Earth, and even a few off-world. Daniel Reyes opened a training center. He taught new fighters how to win when they were outgunned, outnumbered, and alone. Eddie Ramirez built a network of smart drones that watched Earth's skies. He never left his home, but he still protected the planet like a ghost in the dark. And the aliens? They talked about Earth in low voices. Some said it was cursed. Others said it was ruled by ghosts. Some even believed the planet itself fought back. But among alien soldiers, there was a saying, "Never go to Earth, because if you did, you wouldn't be fighting an army. You'd be fighting teachers. Teachers who had trained an entire world to fight like them. Old men and women who moved slow, but could still kill faster than most. Kids who had learned war before. They had learned love. Families who had turned their homes into bunkers, cities that had become traps, and a planet that had decided long ago. It would never fall, not to kings, not to gods, and certainly not to invaders. So the galaxy stayed away. Not because Earth asked for peace, but because everyone knew the truth. Earth wasn't just ready for war. It was waiting for it. And its veterans? They never really stopped being soldiers, not even in peace.